Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there.
So, guys, we will try to get up a second video. Mondays and Tuesdays and Fridays are like crazy days for us. But we have some information from the Galactics that we want to share. But first, just covering all the craziness that's going on in the world around us.
And it is indeed that for sure. I mean, crazy stuff, crazy people, crazy I can't even talk today. It's just crazy.
Yeah, a long night from us. Another long night full. Yeah, this is like par for the course. As you know, most definitely, if you heard the phrase targeted individuals, well, yeah, that's yours truly, the two of us, most definitely. But, you know, there's a lot of light workers out there that are being targeted right now to the strongest degree.
I thought I remember something last night. I don't know if I can talk about it on this show, but about what light workers are getting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're supposed to share or not. We'll
Okay,
probably
we'll
have to
wait.
get clarification. Let's just say that the light workers out there that we've talked about this, how there is a dark entity, you know, mostly these are 4D entities that there's at least one assigned to every light worker on the planet. So again, the enemy is numerous. We're talking in reality, you know, billions. You know, this, and when we say the enemy too, this is again spiritual warfare. What does that mean? It's multidimensional. How else are we going to define spiritual as it's simply more than that which meets the senses, the regular, normal five senses they say we have, although we have many more senses than that, as so many of them are coming online. And so we'll get more into that. But everything I want to just reiterate, everything you see happening here is really for the most part because of what's going on in our spiritual sense, and the fact that we're waking up, we're growing, our DNA is changing. And we were talking to a person today about epigenetics. We can rewrite our DNA, and Source, God with the big G, is rewriting our DNA right now. And this is why we have everything happening on the planet. It's all about a battle of consciousness.
Absolutely. Big battle of consciousness, trying to change what, Mother Nature has already put into place as a big task.
So New York City first responders, U.S. Army trained for America's worst day. America's worst day. Look at the terminology. Many people will say, well, haven't we had the worst day? You know, those of a much prior generation would basically say Pearl Harbor. That was the darkest day, right? A day that will live in infamy. And then, of course, we had September 11th, 01, which changed everything. I mean, I remember I was working in an office at that point in time. And, the word came out and we just stopped everything and we went and put the TV on and everybody just watched, and then they let everybody go home that didn't feel like they could work that day because it was so earth-shattering, so paradigm-shattering. And yet it was forecast. We could go back to 1997 if you look clearly and you see the signs that, the writing was on the wall in 1997 with a group by the initials of PNAC. Google PNAC. And you might want to put in 1997 and see what you learn. And we've talked about this so many times. Things are planned way, way ahead, and things are telegraphed all the time. A joint training exercise between the U.S. Army and New York's first responders on Randall's Island, preparing the Big Apple for America's worst day. What would that look like? They're prepared for any scenario, from a missile attack on Yankee Stadium to a biological weapon attack in the city's subway system. Everybody needs to get back to training, said Colonel Chris McKinney, Chief of Staff of the Army's Task Force 46. And we always look at numerology. 4 plus 6 equals 10 equals 1. So that means new beginnings and new things. And you see the happiness on kids' faces because they're getting to practice their craft. They're getting to learn it from the best in the business. So I mean, FDNY, NYPD here, they've done so much stuff. The 3-day dense urban terrain exercise. Dense urban terrain exercise. DUTE. DUTE. I wonder if there's anything else that would equate to. Which wrapped up Thursday, had city firefighters, NYPD, and Port Authority cops working with National Guard troops to prepare for the worst. And it starts with everybody speaking the same language. They speak Army, we speak fire department. So said FDNY Battalion Chief Edward Ryan. So by training together, we get to understand each other's lingo. Little things like we have what we call a FAST team, which is firefighter assist team. He said they call it an RIT, or rapid intervention team. Same basic idea, different terminology. So by doing that today, I now know if I hear that what they're speaking about. Training exercises included rapid response to a subway attack aren't all that far-fetched, particularly after what happened back in September 11th, 01. In 2018, an accidental steam pipe explosion in the subway system spread asbestos in the tunnels, forced evacuation of 50 midtown buildings. It's relationships, right? McKinney said of the training, you got to bring credibility and trust to the table. And that's something that's near and dear to the hearts with these partners. Should we ever have to respond? And that's why we train. We need to know what we're doing. We need to know how to plug in to support a city. And today is August 9th. And interesting too, because there's a lot of dates that are being mentioned around the net, and we had gotten a time frame too, which would correlate to, pretty soon, perhaps within 2 weeks, perhaps about 2 weeks' time, there could be some major events coming down. So it's interesting timing.
Right, and dates are a difficult one, and they've set a bunch of dates in the past as far as, oh, this is going to happen here and that's going to happen there. So don't focus so much on the date, just focus on your preparedness, because we just need to be prepared. And I think whatever happens, they're going to try to make sure we're not guarded and we're not ready, right? To me, that makes sense. So just be prepared. Now, August does feel fueled, though.
August, as we said, August is going to be a month that rewrites things in so many ways. Yet, and we'll share more in the second video, which is all going to be messages from the Galactics that just came in. Interesting, there's two different prominent timelines that are in high likelihood, and we'll cover that as well. Dixie Fire, now second largest wildfire in California state history. So this one is growing, and every year seems to get worse. As you see here, Greenville homes burning. Some of these areas are just totally devastated. And it's not just California, as we've been saying. The fires in Greece are horrid, and Turkey, horrible as well, and forcing thousands to evacuate off the Greek island of Evia. And here again, they're blaming it on climate change. And this is in Yakutia, and this is in Russian Siberia. And the wildfires there are just humongous. And, BP Earthwatch, Jesse's a good guy, that he's one of the few that I'll peek at, as well as David Adapt 2030. Very few channels that we actually follow because we're just too busy. And we get our information direct for the most part, besides, going through the news. But he was talking about the fires, and I think he was alluding to last night, I think he's wondering if there's some volcanic activity going on in the Pacific Northwest, perhaps. And I know Dutch was wondering that before too, and there seems to be a big push to cover up anything that would be happening volcanic in the U.S., but we are on the lookout for that, and feels like that'll happen at some point in time. Florida beaches and thousands of fish killed by red tide. This is become the norm, and it just keeps going on. When I walk my dog in the morning, I can smell the dead fish. This is what I did, and I was living half a mile from the beach, half a mile. As soon as I'd open up the door in the morning to go take Zeke out, it would burn your nostrils, burn the back of your throat, and you could just feel it crawling down into your lungs. The stench of death, it was horrid. And Man, I love that area. It was most definitely probably the funnest area I lived in for many reasons. I really enjoyed the Sarasota through Venice, that whole area. But this is coming all the time, and we've seen all sorts of stuff going on. There's lawsuits going on underway because, we have these corporations just piling horrible toxins into the waterways, like the St. Johns River, Lake Okeechobee. It's atrocious. The lack of respect, and how about that massive spill over in Port Manatee as well? There's no respect for Mother Earth or Mother Nature, however you want to put it. And part of Cindy and I's mission here at this time period in this life is to bring people to recognize the divine feminine, because they've killed it. They've taken it all out. Everybody, of a Judeo-Christian background, for the most part, there's very few, if you're talking percentage-wise, that will make reference to Shekinah or the divine feminine. And it's such that many Catholics and even non-Catholics revere Mary, because there's this innate pull to the divine feminine that's been so squashed. We hear our Father that art in heaven, but how about our Mother that's under our feet and that is in our hearts?
I know that's really, sometimes I guess I get a little sad when people say, I keep hearing, my father, in a sense where, your deity, whoever you pray to, is always called the father. Where's the mother in this? It's just so out of balance.
There's no balance, but there's no balance in the system. And again, one of our major things is to cause people to recognize the imbalance, because it's the disconnect from the female motherly energies that allows us to look around and not notice so much, not get really angered and irritated and say, you're killing our mother, to the corporations and the system, which is knowingly doing that. They're knowingly poisoning the earth. And they poison the earth partly because it leads to more sickness, illness, and death and shorter lifespans. I was saying to Cindy yesterday, I'm a knowledge junkie, and I'm also able now to start to recall more and more information from past lives. And I said to her, if I lived to be 1,000 and I still had 950 more years, that would be dangerous to the power structure, because I've realized so many things over my 56 years here on the earth. I had, at 5 years old, when my brother had died, I was staring at the wall and I had an out-of-body experience in which I believe the guides or my higher self was showing me that I'm not the body. And ever since 5 years old, I always knew that I'm not the body. I operate the body, but I'm not the body. I knew that. And that can't be taken away from me, that gnosis, that knowing. People could spew their left-brained orthodoxy and everything they've been basically brainwashed with and trained into a limiting mindset with, but it just doesn't ring true. And I know it's not the truth. So, people could say, you better be careful or you're going to go to hell. No, I'm not. I know I'm not. You just know it. So it doesn't cause any sort of fear. But when people are living in constant fear, then they're easier to be manipulated, even to the point to where they just stand by idly while the very planet, their very, mother that they're standing on, is being killed and systematically destroyed. As all of our brothers and sisters, as far as other life forms here, are suffering, whether they're fish, birds, animals, or even things that are on a microscopic level that are being driven off the planet by the billions. Beneficial things, again, think about the whole system: antibiotics, anti-life. This system is upside down compared to what it should be. We can't fix this with just a band-aid, and I still see people putting hope into individuals and the system. there's nobody that's going to come up in the political system that's going to change the political system, because they're just not able to. We have to get out of the system. The entire system has to collapse. The entire system has to go, be destroyed. It's the only way. When people get out of the system, no longer participate in the system, then we can, and we have to have a viable alternative at the same time that fundamentally grows up in a grassroots manner, such as, things like Michael Tellinger is trying to do with Ubuntu and others. There are many people coming together in collectives all around this globe, and many times they might be centered around organic farms, where people can go and work on an organic farm for basically food and shelter. If things are that bad, go look it up while you're still able to. There's many organic farms across the entire globe. I know I had friends that did that spent years in places like Thailand and the Philippines, and even in places like Croatia in Europe and other European spots, as well as South America and Africa, where they live totally rent free. They just basically donated, say, 5 hours a day, 4 days a week, or whatever it is that particular farm asks, helping grow organic food, and they were basically part of a collective. That's a starting point.
Mm-hmm. It is, and there's so many different things we can do. And if you're at home and you're alone and you're feeling, oh gosh, what can I do? Don't forget about your energy. Your energy, lending energy to positive forces out there will give those forces more oomph. So do it.
Well, with all the wildfires going on in Greece and Turkey, we see an intense and long-lasting heat wave that is expected all over Europe. So we have the extremes getting more and more extremes, and it's going to be brutal incoming. So this will probably aggravate the situation that we're already seeing with the wildfires. And when we look at the volcanic eruptions, you got 7 pyroclastic flows at Merapi, possible underwater eruption in Iceland, Mount Popo explosion, that's in Mexico, Campi Flegrei earthquake storm, that's over in Italy. I wonder if Vesuvius will be coming soon. More than 40 volcanoes showing signs of unrest around the world, as you could see. It's ramping up big time. Meanwhile, Antarctic blast delivering freezing lows, rare snows, and power outages all over New Zealand. So, when you're in the winter, it's going to be super hard, super intense. Those of us in our area, South Central U.S., from Oklahoma, and I'm sure Kansas will be experiencing what we're going to experience through Oklahoma and Texas and over into Arkansas and Louisiana. More than likely, we'll see several storms, quote unquote, several events like we saw last year, which shut down the grid. And so again, we have to be ready for that as best as we possibly can. I would not be surprised at all if we see some more major outages this month as well. Guess what we got? We got another experimental explosion 166 kilometers east-northeast of Beverly Beach, Florida. So it was interesting because, remember the number last time when they were talking about kilometers where the explosion was, it equated to, what did it equate to again?
Was it a 13 miles? No, it was more than that.
It was more than that, but basically
incident.
It was police code for something. So can you guys decipher the 166? Numerologically, it's a 13. 1 plus 3 equals 4, which can, again, indicate manifestation on a physical level. When we go and look at this, then we go over to the USNI Marine Tracker, and we see 2 different strike groups off of the Pacific coast. One over here, and this is the one they say did another experimental blast, the USS Gerald R Ford, which will be heading up, I believe, to Norfolk to be stationed there. So they say they were testing the hull again. We have 2 in range in the Indian Ocean over towards the Persian Gulf, or actually in the Persian Gulf now. I believe one of them is in the Persian Gulf. With anything possibly happening in the Middle East, Iran is always an issue. and then we have one over stationed in Guam. And when we look, we got 296 ships. They're showing in the total U.S. Navy battle force. 106 they say are underway at the moment. And as I was looking through this again, they were talking about that experimental explosion testing the hull. And we don't believe it. Just plain simple. What we get from, here we are, or what we get from the guides is, again, these are attempts to initiate something.
Mm-hmm. A big catastrophe is what it is. So they're just not going to win. So what they're going to start doing now, my understanding is they really are going to do harmless testing so that they can have their footage that they need to say, see, we're doing what we say we're doing. It's all about cover up,
And many of you heard the direct channeling in the Galactic Federation and Laurel's actual own words saying that we had posted a while ago that they weren't going to allow it. They're not going to allow that a certain level of attack to occur. And again, the benevolent ones don't want to interfere with free will. That's the bottom line. Military to require everybody, all the troops, to get it, the big V, by September 15th. So that's new news in. And I know there's a lot of disagreement out there in the general populace, although I think probably 95% of the people in the family here are in agreement about that whole topic and issue. So as top aides resign, New York State Assembly nears the end of its Cuomo investigation, we might be having 2 new governors, and it might be 2 of the biggest states in the union, and they're both of a left persuasion. As Cuomo is obviously in hot water, and the recall vote, from what we've seen as far as the figures, is that he would be recalled as far as over on the left coast. As as we had said, this is the perfect example of do what I say, not what I do, as we see photo after photo of all these top level individuals partying, celebrating things, and not following their own directives. Mm-hmm. So again, there's 2 parts to this, as well. So he might get booted, but who's going to go in there? That's the other, big question. And does it really matter?
No. It's just going to be another puppet.
For the most part, but let's hope. We could always put out hope. And I do think that there are individuals that do get into certain positions that have the best intentions, and then they find out they got a small little pickaxe and they're trying to destroy Pikes Peak.
Yep.
So to speak. And we see over here Putin promises, and he pledges that Russia will ensure security in the Persian Gulf and the Atlantic amid growing piracy. Yet, those acts that he was talking about, now they're being said that they're acts of Iran and the Islamic Republican Guard of Iran. Well, we know, it could be, or it could be getting blamed on them. There is such a thing as a fake banner, FF, right? That happens all the time. Lusitania, was curious about the bankers that were on the Titanic who were against the Federal Reserve. That was a curious thing. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Look at everything in Cuba with JFK. By the way, do you guys know that JFK's brain, after the autopsy, went missing and was never recovered? Isn't that curious?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that curious? But, there was plans to create a false flag so that the U.S. would have the, wherewithal and the support of the U.S. population to go into Cuba and invade it back then. So, we understand, because there'll be new people that come through and make a statement like, don't you know that this could be, not necessarily be Iran? Of course. Could be Iran too, but then again, they're still all these leaders of these countries are nothing but puppets. Putin himself is nothing but a puppet. That's the bottom line. The real power structure is behind the scenes. Even President for Life over here, Xi Jinping, is just a puppet. Does he make all the final decisions? No, he goes and gets down on his knees and asks the Dark Lords, what is thy bidding, my master?
Yeah, so he can, keep wearing those nice billion-dollar threads.
Exactly. And by the way, that type of CCP censorship is obviously coming. As a statement, the internet has never been so authoritarian, is very accurate. Very, very accurate. Social credit scores coming to you soon, perhaps?
Yep.
Perhaps they're already in existence. I wonder what ours are. And so this is cute. London's Tower Bridge got stuck open, and the internet is loving it. It got stuck open. So several incidents have occurred on the bridge since it was opened in 1894. However, reports say the last time the bascules got stuck was in 2005 when UK authorities introduced a computer system to operate the structure. According to local media, the famous landmark was expected to be put in operation this afternoon to allow a large wooden ship through. A spokesperson for the City of London asked pedestrians and drivers to avoid the area. I feel like there's got to be something symbolic about this. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm getting something kind of weird, some kind of message being sent here.
London, again, is its own entity. It's its own entity. It's technically not really part of the UK, just as the Vatican is its own entity, just like DC is its own entity. And it's curious because those are obviously, they're also something I've touched on in the past. All cities on seven hills. When you talk about, go into Revelation and you see that destruction of the city on seven hills, the Whore of Babylon, all that. So is Jerusalem. Jerusalem's a city on seven hills as well. When we put all four of those together, it's like four legs of a table, four legs of the system. Through religious control, financial control, military control. This is part of the whole control grid that we see going on all over the planet. And it's curious. There's got to be some sort of symbolism to this. But people had fun with this. And so they started to do little fun things like saying, okay, I got it. This is why. Oh no, Godzilla!
Oh, that's cute.
Maybe it was King Kong. Maybe, who knows,
Oh, I like that.
Maybe a little squid monster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is that Spider-Man hanging down there?
Looks a little big for Spider-Man.
I don't know.
It's kind of weird. Okay.
And there you go. Us, the week and Friday. Seems like it'll never come.
Yep.
So that was just really cute. I wanted to share that with you guys. Thank you guys so much for being part of the family. Make sure you are subscribed and have the bell clicked to both channels. We should be able to post on Evolutionary again as our spanking on the wrist for talking about things we shouldn't talk about in the system should be over, but we shall see. Or there might be something else that pops up. Thank you guys for being patrons. We couldn't do it without the patrons that are out there. Your support makes it possible. And we want to thank everybody that's trying out medicinal foods. And, we discovered that there is a ton of medicinal food users already at the channel, as these are great people just trying to help people through these times with good product that's going to help strengthen the body. So there is a link on every video that we're putting out now, and it does support the channel as well when you use our link.
It does. Thank you.
As always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.